Hello everyone, welcome back. My name's dustinkreis, and I have shitty ass surgery hair. Yeah, I was under a surgery cap all day, so it's all matted to my head and whatever. It's YouTube, right? Today I'm going to be doing a video response, and I'm going to be doing a video response to a guy that I haven't done one yet to, and I'm kind of surprised with that because he and I have a back and forth basically on every video we post. Whether he's posting something, I'm always talking to him, and whenever I post something, he's always talking to me, and that is MrRPGcrazy. And he just did a video where he went down through his top 10 video game soundtracks, and I thought, that'd be a good video to do a response to, and I was sitting here kind of thinking about it, and I was like, wow, man, a lot of thought went into that, because I started looking through games, and I'm like, oh, this has got a great soundtrack, this has got great music, this, and then I started to sort of organize them into a list of top 10s, and I suck at doing top 10s. I've tried to do these before, and it's never worked out, and it's never been easy. So I'm going to kind of do it a little bit different. I'm just going to pick out 10 games that I think have really amazing soundtracks, and I wanted to try to do it so he and I didn't have the same games, but I kept coming back to a couple that he touched upon because they are, you really can't get any better than some of these games that are on this list. So that being said, not necessarily a top 10, just 10 games that I think have fantastic music, and you should definitely check out either the soundtracks, or even better, just go buy the games and play them and experience the music the correct way. So let's see here, how do I want to proceed? Well, let's just go with what's on the top of the stack here, and this is one that he picked as well, and I think whenever people talk about music in video games, this one always comes up, and for me it always comes up because of one song in particular, and that is Chrono Trigger. Now, this game has fantastic music from top to bottom, but it has what I consider to be one of the best pieces of music ever written for a video game, and that is Corridors of Time. When I first got to Zeal, and that song played, I remember setting the controller down and just listening to that track, and it really kind of fueled my madness to try to get one of the soundtracks for this game. I still haven't done it, but I did download a copy of the soundtrack, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago or so, and listened to it then. But definitely a soundtrack and a game you guys should check out. Go onto YouTube, look for Corridors of Time, and just live that music. It's just fantastic stuff. And it's kind of crazy how with music nowadays, we're getting these big orchestral soundtracks on the games and stuff like that. And in a lot of ways, the music doesn't stick with me as well as it did back when I was a kid. And I think that's because with games like this, the composers really had to be creative with it because they had a much smaller palette to work with. And when you put limitations on things and you have to work within the constraints of a budget, whether it be money or in this case file size, you really have to kind of stretch your means to make something great happen. And I think that's you could say that a lot about 16-bit and 8-bit music. It's just they had so little to work with, but what they came up with was just fantastic stuff. So definitely check out Chrono Trigger and Corridors of Time, one of the best pieces of music for a game ever. And let's see, what do we got next here? Let's I tried doing this video once, and then the damn camera died on me, and God, it always happens to me. I think I have enough battery power, so this is fully charged. We should be able to make it through this. But anyway, the next one I kind of went very nostalgic with, and listening to the music, you wouldn't necessarily say it's the best video game music ever made, but there are so many themes in the game that I just continuously hum along to, and it has one of the best overworld themes ever in an RPG, and that is Dragon Warrior 1. And I remember just, you know, back in the day when I had this, because I didn't have the map or anything to it, I just kind of remember tooling around in that overworld and just listening to the fantastic overworld music, and it's so permeated my brain, and my brain is so saturated in it because I've played this so many times that sometimes I'll just be walking around, you know, town and just be humming it to myself. You know, it's like the perfect quest music. You know, whenever I think of you know, people going on a quest for an item, I always think of the overworld music from Dragon Warrior. So MrRPGcrazy picked Dragon Quest VIII, which is of course in the same series. So, you know, if you like the newer Dragon Quest games, definitely go back and check out some of the older games. They're still, you know, this one is, you know, gameplay-wise is pretty archaic, but it's still a fun experience to kind of see what we had to put up with back in the day. But still a fantastic game and fantastic music. So, Dragon Warrior 1 is another great soundtrack. I don't want to go to this one yet. Let's just keep going with these here. The next one is another one of those nostalgic trips down memory lane, and I think that really, when you talk about game music, it really is a nostalgic thing. And the next one is going to be Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which I consider to be the best Zelda game ever made. And the best Zelda music also. You know, it has several updated tracks from the original Legend of Zelda, but it has one of the best pieces of music also, which is the Dark World theme. Which, you know, it doesn't happen until, you know, later, because I think the first time you go to the Dark World, it has a different piece of music. But when you finally get there and you're finally able to, you know, use your sword and deal out some damage, you know that dun 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 da 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 da. You know, that piece of music right there. That is, it's basically a part of my soul now. Just like do 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 do. You know, it's just one of those pieces of music that's just so ingrained in who I am that whenever I hear it, my brain just, you know, explodes in joy. So definitely check out, you know, Link to the Past. You know, everyone was going on and on about Skyward Sword, and it was a fantastic Zelda game, don't get me wrong, but definitely go back and check out where Zelda came from if you guys are new to the series, because this is, you know, this is the best representation of what classic 2D Zelda is, and you guys should definitely check this out. So, another game that MrRPGcrazy he picked on his list was Ys Othenfeld-Ghana. And, you know, any way you can get Ys 3 is a fantastic game and a fantastic soundtrack. But when I started thinking about the Ys series, really the soundtrack that, you know, pops into my mind is the soundtrack for Ys Book 1 and 2. And specifically the TurboGrafx PC Engine copy, because I think that this version of it has the best sound out of all of the versions out there. And, you know, I got the PSP box set with the soundtrack, listened to it, really enjoyed it. It was a fantastic update to the music. But for some reason, the overly orchestral PSP version, and then the sort of weird and kind of off-kilter DS version, because the Atlas DS game also came with a CD soundtrack, it just didn't have the same punch and the same, I guess creepiness in some ways, because, you know, when you get to the abandoned mine, and, you know, you're tooling around in there, and it's these dungeons are huge in Ys Book 1 and 2. And the only thing you have is like a little bit of light around you, kind of like in classic Dragon Warrior, when you go into a cave. And just that background music, just the relentless boom, 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 boom. And then the actual music comes in over that bass line where it's ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, you know. And I remember I was stuck in that fucking cave for so long because it's so hard to navigate around in there because of the way the game, you know, forces you to have just that little spot of light. But I didn't mind because that music was so great. And definitely you cannot talk about Ys Book 1 and 2 without talking about First Steps Towards Wars or First Step Towards Battle. depending on what version you have and what translation. But the overworld theme, where when you first leave town, you're able to go out and fight monsters. You know, when you're just touring around out in the woods and the plains of you know, this world. I'm not going to sing it. I've sang a couple songs now, and you guys are saying I'm not a very good singer, but definitely one of the best soundtracks out there. Definitely check out the TurboGrafx or PC Engine port of this game. You can get the PC Engine version relatively cheap, and I would recommend it to you even if you don't own either a TurboGrafx or a PC Engine, because the great thing about these old PC Engine, and I believe Sega, yeah, the Sega CD games will also do this. If I put this into my CD player, it doubles as the soundtrack. You have to cycle through a couple tracks to get past the game and some of the other stuff that's on the disc. But eventually you will get to the music tracks and phenomenal stuff. I wish, you know, PlayStation 1 games and Saturn games and things like that still worked like this. But definitely one of the fun quirks of the old CD-ROM based games is that you just throw them in your CD player and play the tracks. So definitely check out the soundtrack for Ys Book 1 and 2. And if you've already checked out the PSP versions, definitely go back and check out the TurboGrafx versions, because they have some fantastic music and it's phenomenal. Another game that MrRPGcrazy picked, and I was actually kind of surprised he picked, because he and I have had some discussions on this game, and of course it's my favorite game of all time. I gush about it all the time, and for him it's more of this is a great game, whereas for me it's like astronomically great, you know what I mean? So, but I was actually really surprised when he said it's, correct me if I'm wrong, did you say it was your favorite Final Fantasy soundtrack? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think my brain says I think you did. And that is the soundtrack for Final Fantasy VI. And as you notice, I'm not holding up the game. I'm actually holding up the 3-disc CD soundtrack that I bought back when I was a kid, because I fell in love with this game. This game was religion to me back in the day. I am so familiar with this music. It runs in my head all the time. And, you know, I beat this game 17 times. And, because when you're a kid, you know, you don't buy as many games. I buy way too many games now, but back in the day, you only got 1 or 2 or 3 games a year, because you had to, you know, trick your parents into buying them for you. And Final Fantasy VI was $80 on the Super Nintendo, you know, back in the day. That's, I don't even know what that is for inflation now, but I think it's over $100. So games weren't cheap back then, so you had to get your money's worth, and I definitely got my money's worth of this game. But I just remember booting this game up and watching that gorgeous, gorgeous cutscene at the beginning where Terra and the 2 Magitech soldiers march in their armor toward Narshe, or Narshe, or however you want to say it. And just that very slow, quiet version of Terra playing. Just fantastic, fantastic stuff. And this, you know, everyone goes on and on about Final Fantasy VII being so cinematic. This was cinematic before we knew what cinematic games were. So, for all you newcomers to Final Fantasy, definitely don't miss out on this game, and don't miss out on this soundtrack. If you can find, you know, this soundtrack, which, you know, it comes with a, of course, there's the discs in there, and they have, like, you know, character art on them of the sprites. But it also comes with this really kind of handsome booklet that has artwork and stuff, and of course everything's in Japanese, so I can't read it, but somebody out there can. But definitely look for this CD soundtrack if you can find it. I don't know if it's out. It's probably out of print, and it's probably like ridiculous amounts of money. But definitely, any way you can get Final Fantasy VI and listen to the soundtrack, definitely do it, because if I remember correctly, MrRPGcrazy said that. I totally agree with you, man. I think it's the best Final Fantasy soundtrack out there, and probably my favorite video game soundtrack out of them all. I mean, how can you beat a 16-bit opera, you know, with people singing? And of course, I mean, they don't, you can't make out any voices or anything, but actually there are voices. It's just they just say gibberish. So you can't beat a video game soundtrack when it's 16-bit and it has a full opera on it. So definitely check out Final Fantasy VI. It's hands down one of the most beautiful soundtracks ever made. Oh, where do we want to go next? Let's just go with this one. And this one, a lot of you guys might be familiar with, if not from the game itself, but from the movie based on the game. It used a lot of music from this to fantastic results, and that is Silent Hill 3. You know, and luckily this comes with the CD soundtrack in it. So when you guys are buying this on eBay and Amazon and blah blah blah, make sure it has that CD soundtrack with it because you'll want it. And this is fantastic stuff, along with the Silent Hill 2 soundtracks. Those are the two soundtracks that I own from Silent Hill. Great stuff to play around Halloween, for Halloween parties and stuff, because it's just, you know, it's creepy, it's kind of off-kilter, and the reason why I picked Silent Hill 3 over Silent Hill 2, because I actually went out, I love the music of Silent Hill 2 so much, I actually went out and bought the soundtrack from Japan. This was another thing back in the day that I did that, you know, just shows you how much I really enjoyed it back in the day, because I wasn't big into imports back then. But the reason why I picked 3 is because this is the introduction of the vocals in the Silent Hill games. And god damn it, the first time I filmed this thing, I forgot the woman's name, and you know, in between while charging the camera, I forgot to look her name up. So I forget her name. I think it's Elizabeth something. But anyway, she really adds so much to the songs, and if her and the composer would just make music outside of Silent Hill, but in that same vibe, I would be totally down for that. They make an awesome band. But definitely check out the soundtrack for Silent Hill 3. Like I said, a lot of the music was used in the movie, especially to great effect at the end of the movie, where, you know, Rose and Cheryl are still stuck in the mist world, and you know, you have that beautiful like little vocal tag at the end of the movie. It's from this game, so definitely check out this soundtrack. One of the creepiest, but also one of the most beautiful soundtracks out there. It's really kind of weird how Silent Hill straddles that line between grotesque and beauty. It's really something special about these games. You know, they've kind of gone off the rails here lately, but I'm hoping Downpour will bring it back. We'll see. Another game is kind of a little bit of a disappointment, not in the music in the game itself, just with the CD soundtrack that comes with the game, because I was really hoping to have, you know, the full soundtrack, because, you know, other Atlas games that they release the soundtracks with, like the Dark Spire and Ys, Legend of Ys, they come with, you know, like a 20-song soundtrack. The next one is Radiant Historia. Now, the reason why I don't like this one as much, because it comes with a 5-song piano arrangement CD, which I would much rather have the full soundtrack than the arrangements, but the piano arrangements are still really beautiful on the CD, so I can't fault it too much. It's just I wish I had the, you know, the in-game music as well. Looking for this soundtrack online, it's going to set you back quite a bit, probably around $50. So keep that in mind. You might just want to, you know, look at it on YouTube. I know that Jonathan Rector, a guy I talk to quite a bit, he's really been digging this CD soundtrack and this game. So, you know, it's just glorious, gorgeous stuff. I've been trying to stop using the word glorious. It just sounds ridiculous coming out of my mouth. But anyway, you know, there are just so many, you know, tracks in this game that's, you know, very moving. There's one track in particular that I can't remember the name to. Jonathan will, and he'll write it down there on the bottom. It's just, it plays anytime something really sad happens in the game, and it is such a, sort of a, just a heartbreaking, sad track, because a lot of bad crap happens in this game. The battle theme is amazing. It's one of my favorite battle themes out there, right alongside Trails in the Sky, which Trails in the Sky is not in this list because I feel like I put Trails in the Sky in everything because it's that fantastic. So just pretend that Trails in the Sky is an honorable mention. But, you know, the music adds so much character to this game, and I was actually really surprised at how good the music is, because it does rival a lot of, you know, modern day releases. So definitely check out Radiant Historia, and they're going to be doing a reprint on that. I don't know if it'll come to the CD soundtrack or not. I kind of hope it doesn't, so it'll make like the first round ones kind of special. But sorry for anyone that doesn't have it, but if you haven't got Radiant Historia yet, there will be a reprint sometime here soon, so definitely go out and check it out. It's one of the great DS. No, let me strike that. Reverse it. Reverse it. It's one of the best games this generation. Yeah. So, my throat's getting a little dry because I sit here and I prattle on so long. Gotta shorten these things up. Next game is a game I'm currently playing right now. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I want to kind of save it for the game discussion when I get to it. Hopefully I'll get to it at the end of the week here. I'm still plugging away. And that game is Nier. And let me tell you, people told me that the music in this was fantastic, but it's actually pretty jaw-droppingly fantastic. And so much so that I had to know who the voice that sings the songs in this game was. And her name is Emmy Evans, Emivans. I'll put a link to her site down in the description box. Because, you know, outside of doing the soundtrack for Nier, she also has a band called Freescape. And I've been kind of looking into them, and I'm telling you guys, if you like the music of Nier, you're going to like her band's music. It's not a one-for-one, you know, comparison, but there's enough correlation between the two that if you like one, you'll like the other. And definitely check out her stuff. I'm really thinking about buying her CDs because I just love her voice that much. It's so ethereal, and I'm talking too much about this. I'm not going to have anything to talk about in the game discussion video. But, you know, the music adds so much character to the world, so much so that I would say the music is its own character in this game. It really fits in the game world and feels like it's a product of that world. So it's really quite awesome. Looking for the soundtrack, because I looked for it, and I'm still kind of debating on whether I want to drop the dinero for it or not, but it's going to set you back about 50 to 80 bucks. But it's a 2-disc soundtrack, and it's got gorgeous box art. So, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. We'll see if I actually take the plunge or not. But, you know, listening to the soundtrack in my car, because that's basically all I've been spinning this week. It's awesome, but it's also missing something. You really need to see the music. You really need to hear the music while you're playing the game and seeing all the vistas and stuff like that. The game is not that expensive. I think you can get it new for $19, you know, $20-ish. And the music it makes it worth the price of admission alone. So definitely check out Nier and stay tuned because the game discussion video will be coming soon. I have Friday off and I really plan on beating the game and then replaying part 2 because it's got like 4 different endings. I'll at least do 2 of the endings before I do the game discussion video, so I get as much of that end story as I can get. But definitely check out Nier. The next soundtrack I want to talk about is for a game that I do not own yet. And notice I say yet. It's with great pride that I say yet, because it's coming to our shores in April. Guys, make sure you get this pre-ordered, because actually, I've heard a rumor that if you don't pre-order this game, there are not going to be any other copies in the store. Like, you have to pre-order it to get it. And that game is Xenoblade. So, if you guys are even thinking about getting this, go pre-order it now, because if that rumor is true, a lot of people are going to be pissed off come April 6th, because they're going to walk into their GameStop and be like, oh, I want this game. They're going to be like, well, did you pre-order it? No. So, but if you don't want to deal with GameStop, you can order it straight from Nintendo's site. So, anyway, I've been looking into a lot of stuff about Xenoblade since it was announced, and I just loved what I saw, and I wanted to own something that said Xenoblade on it, because for a long time it looked like we weren't going to get the game. So I ordered the soundtrack, and when I first put this in, it just hit me so hard, because it doesn't sound like a game soundtrack. It actually sounds like a movie soundtrack. It's like that good. And instantly, I mean, not so much visions of the game, but I used to listen to like movie soundtracks, and as I was listening to it, I would make up my own story to the soundtrack as I was listening to it, because I was a weird little kid. And, you know, listening to this, it instantly brought that back, and I was just making up my own fantastic story to the music. And it's 4 discs, like, you know, basically every Japanese soundtrack is. And it's fantastic stuff. I don't know what these go for online anymore, and I got mine from Play Asia. so I might have paid a little bit more than what it's worth, and I might be flashing the camera with some light. Sorry if I am. But it's fantastic stuff. The first 3 tracks are just worth the price of admission alone. Especially that, I'm assuming the track number 1 on disc 1, I'm assuming that is the song that plays as you start up the title screen. And if that's the case, then wow, awesome stuff. But yeah, definitely check out Xenoblade, guys. And it's coming out in April. Make sure you pre-order your copy. That being said, The Last Story, which is not on this list, but it could easily be on this list, is also a fantastic soundtrack by Yui Matsu. That comes out later in June 20th. So make sure you guys pre-order that too, and support Xseed, because they're bringing that one over. So, there's Xenoblade. Fantastic stuff. The last soundtrack I want to talk about is kind of a surprise for me, because I didn't really think I was going to like this game, and it surprised me how much I actually did like it. And that game is Final Fantasy 13-2, and I got the collector's edition with the CD soundtrack. I've heard rumor that Square Enix is sold out of the standard edition soundtrack, so this might be your only way of getting a hold of it for a while. But yeah, I'm really surprised at how much I like the music from this. And you know, most of the vocal tracks are kind of J-poppy, you know, kind of fare. But I don't know, for some reason it just really resonated with me this time, and I really enjoyed basically the entire soundtrack. There's only a few of the Chocobo songs that I didn't like, and anytime it went to sort of a heavy metal boss battle theme, I didn't like that very much either. But everything else I thought was really great, and you know, it's made me want to revisit the first game, and I might have something to show you guys, depending on when it gets delivered, in my collection, my pickup video for February. I did buy a CD soundtrack because somebody on YouTube who likes to not so much recommend things, but point out things and then make me want to buy them, Ballin' Nick 1982, talked about the soundtrack for 13, so I did go and pick up the soundtrack for the first game to re-listen to see if I missed anything. But yeah, fantastic stuff. So definitely check out 13-2's soundtrack. Great stuff. I really love the music in that game. So anyway, whew, my throat's tired. That was a lot of talking. Yeah, that's 10 soundtracks I think you guys should definitely check out. I'm going to put a link down below to MrRPGcrazy's site. I think he has a fantastic channel. I always look forward to his videos because he and I have, well, I wouldn't say we have, you know, the exact same taste in games, but there's so much overlap that it's just fun to listen to, you know, him talk about games and have him recommend stuff to me and have, you know, me recommend stuff to him. I really loved watching his Trails in the Sky video because I told him, I was like, you're going to just rant and rave about this game, and he loved it to death, so gotta work Trails in the Sky into every video I do, I guess. But anyway, definitely check out his channel. He doesn't have, I think he has like 40 subscribers, so he could definitely use a lot more subscribers. He's got fantastic stuff, and it's always interesting to hear someone's thoughts about video games from a different country. I live in America, and he lives in Sweden, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Slap me if I'm wrong. Sorry. Should have done the necessary legwork there. But it's always interesting to me to see, you know, how people in other countries react to these games as well. So, yeah, I think that's it. So, I see the red light still on the camera, so we got this all recorded. Game discussion on Nier coming up. Game discussion on, almost said Trails. Tales of the Abyss on the 3DS. Fantastic stuff. I hear it's hard to get, guys, so if you can find a copy of that, definitely pick it up. Even if you have the PS2 version. I have the PS2 version, but I've never played it, but I would still say that it's a fantastic reason, you know, if you find one, to pick it up for your 3DS, because who doesn't want Tales on the go? And then whenever I get back to Tactics Ogre, you know, I really enjoy the game, but at the same time, strategy RPGs, tactics RPGs like this, it really saps a lot of strength out of me, so kind of giving a break from that. But got things coming up. Just gotta find the time to get these games finished. And I'll talk to you about them and share my thoughts so you can all talk back to me and, yeah, communication. So, alright guys, that's it. Yeah, I'm done talking. So, thank you all so much for watching. Check out MrRPGcrazy. I'm going to go get a drink of water because my mouth is dry as a desert. I will see you guys next time. Take care. Thanks for watching.